everybody, this is Diane. Hello and welcome to Biters.
And this is Marnell, and I was right.
Yes, you were, and we will talk about that. And that was the thing that I was texting back and forth with Phil, Steven, you, and Diana about last night that I didn't want to spoil, but yes. I'm just going to say, I'm going to get it off my chest right now. I didn't like either one of these episodes, and you did, so I'm sure we're going to talk for hours.
Them. Yeah, I didn't dislike them. These weren't my favorite episodes. I did rate them kind of low, but I didn't dislike them.
I would like to say to all of the biters out there, Happy Wolfenoot, which is a doggy holiday that is a new holiday, a neo holiday that I just learned about this year, so...
Oh, that's funny.
Yes.
What do we do on the doggy holiday?
So you make moon cakes, you howl at the moon, and you give roast beast to your creatures.
Oh, I gave them roast beast last night. And they were very barky, as anyone would hear on the Real Housewives podcast that's going to be published.
I didn't do roast beast today, but I did order, I didn't make it myself, but I ordered one of those fresh dog food things from the store when I did my Instacart today. So they got a special food, and then I did make them cookies.
Oh.
Yeah. And the cats got tuna fish. So they got a second wet meal today.
Man, no wonder why it's so quiet in your house.
And let me tell you, Greaves growls when she eats. Seriously, she'll be eating and she'll be like, "Row, row, row, row." It's really funny.
I think I have a TikTok that I have a like on that I should send you.
Oh my god, of course you do.
Of course I do.
And speaking of the wildlife, so did you see the post that I put with the bull moose?
Yes, that's amazing.
And Steve was like, "Now that's what I'm talking about, Marn bug."
Yeah, we have just recently gotten moose back in Southeast. They were overhunted, and we went decades without moose.
I never knew that there were moose in Southeast.
There was. It's not the huge bull mooses
Moose.
that you guys get up there. We get these spindly little things, and I think we actually even have an albino one wandering around.
Do they even count then?
The albinos?
No, any of them.
Oh, yeah. They're nothing that you could hunt anymore. They have to be larger. They have to have so many points and have such a I think it's a 5-foot rack or something.
Unless you're augmenting walkers.
Right. Oh, that's funny. That kind of feeds into my rating.
All right, so we're not quite there yet because we have to talk about numbers and we have to talk about our featured cast first. And there's quite a bit in the news. So, yeah, this is probably going to be a long episode. Buckle up, everybody. All right, so we were talking about Damage from the Inside, which was Fear the Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 7, which was not intended to be our mid-season finale, but here we are. Thank you, COVID.
Yeah, right?
And then we were talking about The World Beyond Season 1, Episode 7? No, Episode 8.
Yeah.
And we'll have Episodes 9 and 10 next week. And the episode was called The Sky is a Graveyard. So our numbers, there was a slight uptick for both series. Fear went up from 1.24 million views to 1.27 million views for Bury Her Next to Jasper's Leg. And then Truth or Dare went from 0.73 million views the week prior to 0.78 million views for Truth or Dare.
So, I wonder why it's ramping up.
I don't know that they're ramping up that much, but it could be because we were headed towards season finales or mid-season finales.
Yeah, that's true.
So we decided that we were going to make Ed from Fear our featured cast member this week.
Yeah, so Raphael Sparge.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna let you say his last name.
So I actually watched a YouTube video where it was at a gaming convention, and he was being interviewed because it does a lot of voices for games, and specifically this one was Mass Effect. But yeah, so it's not on his IMDb profile, but it is every place else that you look for him. He was born into a theatrical family, and his mother was a Broadway costume designer, and his father was a writer, painter, and filmmaker. And his first acting gig was a reoccurring role at 4 years old on Sesame Street.
Yes, I saw that.
In 1969.
Yes.
That's crazy. 10 years before I was born.
This guy has 171 actor credits.
Yes, he does. So it was a few weeks after he graduated high school that he flew out to LA to be in the movie Risky Business with Tom Cruise. So he's got one more credit before that, but yeah, he kind of hit the big time with Risky Business, and he has worked steadily ever since.
I did want to point out that before he was in Risky Business, he had his Broadway debut at the age of 16. And he acted with Faye Dunaway. Yeah. He's
got some major acting chops on stage. But as far as his screen career, his big ones, of course, were Risky Business. Do you remember the movie Vision Quest in the 80s?
I don't know why that name sticks with me. I kind of vaguely remember it. Tell me the plot.
So, he played a character called Schmoozer.
So, was that a name or a description?
I think it was a nickname based on a description. Because like other friends in the group had Bulldozer, Shoot. Yeah, they had funny names. So a high school wrestler in Spokane, Washington, has trouble focusing on his training regimen when a beautiful young drifter takes up temporary residence at his home. And it stars Matthew Modine and Linda Fiorentino.
Oh, yeah, I totally don't remember it then.
It also had Madonna in it.
Yeah. No, still don't remember it. I only remember her from Desperately Seeking Susan, which was terrible.
I feel like it was one of those movies that has played on cable since like a year after it was released, and I've probably seen it 100 times, with edited and with commercial breaks. So, like you said, he has been in over 100 things.
Almost 200 things.
And, of course, he's been in just about every single Law and Order
and NCIS.
NCIS.
I didn't know, by the way, that Law and Order had a miniseries called Law and Order True Crime.
Yes. I don't think it was very good. I didn't like it. There are plenty of other true crime things out there that were way more interesting and done better. He had a reoccurring role on Star Trek Voyager.
And Dexter.
Yes, and on Dexter.
Which I was thinking maybe that was where I recognized him, because he looked kind of familiar to me, but I don't know if I'm just making that up.
So he's been in so many things that I have watched. Like he can't not be familiar. He was in Independence Day. He was on Will and Grace. He was on Profiler, which was a good show back in the day. ER, CSI. He's just been in so much. Reoccurring role on Prison Break. Reoccurring role on The Young and the Restless, which I didn't watch. And like I said, he's done a ton of voice work for video games.
Well, and he was in Once Upon a Time, which is our Fear connection, right?
Right, of course.
And he was also in
Better Call Saul, which is an AMC property.
Oh, I missed that. I missed that he'd been in Better Call Saul.
Yep.
He was also in Pearl Harbor, which we had recently talked about someone who had been featured in Pearl Harbor. And I can't remember if it was when we were talking about Idiocracy or if it was when we were talking about one of the Walking Dead properties.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So more recently, he was in iZombie and
Yes.
Elementary, Law and Order Special Victims Unit, Bates Motel, which is funny because Bates Motel is kind of based on like the character.
Based on Psycho.
Yeah, and the character, the serial killer character, is actually based on Ed Gein, and he is now playing a character that is based on Ed Gein.
Oh man, you totally ruined it for me. I was like, this is the Buffalo Bill episode of Fear the Walking Dead. I was totally gonna say that in my rotting potpourri.
Aww.
Yes,
sorry.
Totally, and a shout out to Ed Gein.
Yeah, and I will talk about it in my good. So, he's been on Blacklist, and of course, you said reoccurring role on Once Upon a Time. He plays Dr. Archie Hopper, and his fairy tale character is Jiminy Cricket. The Blacklist, Hunters, which is on my list. And there's no such thing as vampires. I had never heard of that one. But so he also does a lot of work behind the camera. He's done some directing, some writing, and I think I've passed it. So he's got 10 director's credits. And I keep seeing Jenna's Studio come up a lot. I think it won a number of awards. Let's see. In 2013, Sparge began directing a web series, serving as executive producer and director on Belgley Street and Jenna Studio. His 2017 short film, The Bird Who Could Fly, premiered at the Asian Film Festival. Sparge's 2019 documentary, LA Foodways, was nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award in the educational/information category. So that actually kind of takes me into the charity that he works with. Oh. So it's called Green Wish, and Green Wish is creating films to serve as humanistic guideposts that highlight environmental, economic, and cultural issues. So LA Foodways is a 6-part documentary. I cannot talk tonight. Is a 6-part documentary series and a 1-hour feature film that debuted in the spring of 2019. Foodways was first coined in 1942 by an anthropologist, folklorist, and food scholar to describe the study of why we eat what we eat and what it means. Food at the intersection of culture, tradition, and history. Our attitudes, practices, and rituals around food are the window into our most basic beliefs and the world and ourselves. So it actually kind of looks really interesting. I watched the trailer for it, and the trailer that they have on the website talks about the food insecurity around LA County. When LA County was, first incorporated, it was all farmland. There was no problem with food insecurity. And, now you have nothing but concrete, and you have a kind of a food dead zone as far as people getting the fresh fruits and vegetables and things that they need. And how California grows plenty of food for Californians, but there is a disconnect in getting the food from A to B to the people who need it the most. So it looks like a really interesting documentary, and we might have to look at it as for our housewives.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's one of the charities that he works with. He's big on the environmental organizations. Okay, so it's just Green Wish. I feel like they did more than...
Did you say Screen Wish or Green Wish?
Green.
Green, like the color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Green like the color. Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah. He does have a Facebook, an Instagram, and a Twitter. He is at Raphael Sparge on both. He's got a lot of interesting stuff on his Insta page. He's a lefty, so that's not your thing.
No, with a charity like Green Wish? Are you kidding me? Really?
And it looks like he live tweets the episode. Well, he live tweeted the episode that he was in. So, I don't know if you want to follow him. He may have some spoilers. But he's got a cute picture from Karen David, who plays Grace. It's her pointing to his kind of headshot that's up on a wall, and it says, "The incredibly sweet photo dear at Karen David sent me when she found out I was going to be on her show. Fear the Walking Dead made me laugh so hard." So,
is she really pregnant?
I don't know.
She kind of looked pretty pregnant. I'm starting a rumor. And I don't know why Smalls is being a jerk, so here we are. But...
Oh, that's a pinned tweet from April 5th, so I can't go by that. I was like, she does not look pregnant, but that was way back in April.
Right.
Which that was like 8 years ago.
But if we look at when this was filmed, it was probably filmed close to that time.
Right.
Probably even before then, actually. If we think about the trajectory of COVID and if we think about filming.
Yeah. She also has another picture on her page of her and Raphael together. And she does not look pregnant at all.
Well, maybe I'll have to give them points for the makeup job.
They are. Definitely. So did you have anything to add to Raphael?
I don't think so. I just thought that the start on Sesame Street was pretty cool.
It is.
And he's won multiple awards for his different roles.
Yes, he has. Let's see. You said he made his debut on Broadway with Faye Dunaway.
Mm-hmm.
He's also been in other New York plays off Broadway: Hamlet, Wilderness, Ghosts, The Twilight Golds, The Shadow Box, and Voices in the Dark. Let's see. Oh, here it is. I found it. So he was in, Raphael made his Broadway debut at the age of 16, blah, blah, blah. I keep repeating it. He was in pre-Broadway Twilight of the Gods. He has performed on stage with Al Pacino, Frank Langella, Colleen DeWurst, Blythe Danner, and Gwyneth Paltrow, among many others. Because I know how much you love Gwyneth Paltrow.
Right. He managed to survive that experience. I didn't always hate her. She's just irritating now.
Yeah, I was most interested in he's performed with Al Pacino. So, yeah, he's got quite the resume.
And, I mean, he really did look very familiar to me, but I was also trying to just not watch. So I may have been completely making it up.
Well, so I look at his IMDb pictures. A lot of times when I think that I know somebody from something, I will look at the IMDb pictures to see if I recognize them in a set photo. And he is very good at his like chameleon like becoming a different character.
Well, and the other thing I would say is that we're essentially looking at someone whose career has spanned 50 years.
Right.
So,
right.
Just saying.
Yeah, so pretty cool. Unfortunately, he's a one and done character. I know we don't need to add any more characters.
Well, and I'm not saying unfortunately because I didn't like this whole arc, but
I will admit that it was kind of a weird pocket. I want to call it a pocket episode because it was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, we'll go there.
Okay.
And you said we were going to talk about World Beyond first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will try to blast through Whisperer's Corner. First and probably the most interesting news is that Walking Dead returns on February 28th for what we've taken to calling 10C. So episodes 1 through 6 of the third half of the season. And
that's too bad. Like I was thinking we were gonna have to wait till like April.
I really thought we were gonna have to wait quite a bit longer too.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy that we'll have new Walking Dead content that quickly. So there was
quickly in quotes.
Right. Well, compared to 2020.
Right.
So they published a first look at Hillary Burton as Lucille, and I looked at the picture and I thought to myself, is her hair green or is it just really bad lighting?
You know, she flashed on the screen for just a second in the teaser trailer, and I did not recognize her. I saw the still later, and I'm still like, nope, that still doesn't look like her.
Dude, her hair looks green.
Yeah. It's quite the severe bob.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good style for her, and I don't even object to the color, but I'm pretty sure it's green.
She looked so gaunt. That,
well, you have to. I mean, I don't know if you've read the Negan one-off, but his wife was dying of cancer. So,
yeah.
Then we have a reveal, something of a reveal of our masked stranger, which I think is really lame because that makes me think of the Masked Singer. But I know. Ugh. Anyway, so the character is Elijah. And it's a new character. It's not a character that has any foundation in the comic books. And I'm going to completely slaughter the actor's name, so bear with me. It's Okia Eme Akwari. And he actually is one of the stars of Cobra Kai, which is the series that is an offshoot of the Karate Kid movies.
Right.
Let's see. I've got 2 Eric Kane reviews. I'm going to go through those fairly quickly. So he talks about Fear the Walking Dead 6-7 as a completely ridiculous mid-season finale. Which he and I are on the same page there. And then he said the only part that he liked was Alicia sneaking into the lodge. He called it creepy and unsettling. And then he says everything else in the episode is contrived nonsense.
So her sneaking in or the lodge itself? Was
no, her sneaking in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant.
Ugh. Ugh.
No, like her sneaking in, like she's not just gonna wait outside, but she's also not gonna like go knock on the door. She's gonna be like, I'm just gonna like be inside where I can keep an eye on everything and hang back.
Okay, I think I'm stealing this from Diana, but yeah, a great idea. Sneak into an abandoned hunting lodge in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. Good plan.
Well, Alicia was in there, and, you know, what else are you going to do?
Oh, God.
Sit outside where the walkers can get you?
I have nothing good to say. I struggled to come up with a good for this episode.
Oh, no.
Thomas O'Mara did point out that I liked the series back when the cosmonaut was in the series, and I was like, you know, all I can say is that the bloom is off of the dead rose. Let's see. Kane's review, Walking Dead World Beyond. Everyone in this group sucks except Silas and Elton. Which I actually completely disagree. I think everybody in the group sucks. Except maybe Huck.
I was going to say Huck grew on me. Like,
right.
I didn't like her at first, but she's definitely grown on me.
So he is speculating that Hope is the package or the asset. I think they referred to the asset. And
that is my speculation too.
His idea is that she may have immunity, that her DNA may be key to immunity. Right. So that's what he's saying. He also thinks that Tony is dead and Percy is too hurt to be a problem, which I don't agree with that. I actually think your take that neither one of them is dead.
Yeah, it's a total grift.
Yeah. I'm holding out for that.
Yeah.
All right. So the two knuckleheads are feeding the Madison Returns speculation on Fear the Walking Dead. I think it was Andrew Chambliss, although it could be Ian Goldberg because they're kind of interchangeable in a terrible way, who said, "There's always a chance. There's always a chance." To comicbook.com. But they did specify that the person who stitched somebody up is somebody that Morgan doesn't know. And I can't remember because it's been such a blur over the last year and a half. Did Madison and Morgan know each other? I don't think they did.
No.
Okay, so it could possibly be Madison. There's always a chance.
How do you feel about it? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't hate it.
I'm ambivalent, but there's part of me that's like, would you please just kill someone off and let them be dead? And we'll get to that, too, because I have major issues with no death. No death!
Yeah.
Ugh. All right, there is no real date for the Fear the Walking Dead returns. Sometime in 2021. Thomas O'Mara is speculating that they're going to bring Fear back right after the 10C episodes of the main series.
Mm-hmm.
So Aaliyah Royale, who is the girl who plays Iris, reveals that she's got stuff going on after World Beyond, so she says that she is writing, producing, and directing her own feature film. And I kind of feel like she needs to be a better actress than she is to do all of that, but here we are. Oh, let's see. All right, Matt Lintz, who played Henry, the older Henry, has been cast in Disney's Ms. Marvel. Phil and Lilithia are going to have to clue me in on this one. So he is Kamala Khan's sidekick and friend Bruno Corelli. And I haven't read enough of the Ms. Marvel comic books to know who both of those characters are. Like, I don't know if she's another iteration of Ms. Marvel or if she's like Ms. Marvel's sidekick. But anyway, Matt Lintz has been cast. There's not a confirmation from Disney, but there are shots from the production that people who know the characters say that it's pretty obvious that that's who he is. And this was actually kind of a cool casting thing that I didn't realize. So Robert Patrick, who played John Doggett in The X-Files and who is also the T-1000 Terminator, the one that I remember him most distinctly in the California Highway Patrol uniform.
Yep.
He has been revealed as a character named Maze in the 10C episodes.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see him in the zombie apocalypse. I don't know why.
Because John Doggett's just way cool. That's why.
Yeah, I feel like he's played kind of a rough and tumble bad guy. The T-100 was not rough and tumble, but he was a bad guy.
He was a bad guy, and he was a brutal bad guy.
I love that he reprised his role for that in, I think it was Wayne's World 2?
Oh my gosh, it's been a long time since I watched Wayne's World 2. It's been a long time since I watched the first Wayne's World.
Yeah, he pulled Wayne over and
I vaguely remember that.
Polaroid, and he's like, "Have you seen this boy?" And of course, Wade like screams, and yeah.
I vaguely remember that. All right, so that pretty much takes us into the world beyond the sky is a graveyard.
Which I kind of think is self-explanatory as far as titles go.
I actually really liked the title. I liked the image of all of those dead stars. Right. Thanks, Elton, for ruining it.
See, I liked his story.
Oh, he's a dork.
Yeah. What's that?
I don't like that character at all.
He grew on me this episode.
I really want that corduroy suit to be splashed in blood, so he has to find some real clothing.
Yeah, I kind of hope they get the costume department more involved next. Yeah.
See, Smalls feels the same way.
I mean, it's tactical on his part. I get it.
It's ridiculous. He looks ridiculous. It's terrible.
He does.
But I did, despite him, like the title of the episode.
Yeah. And, in the beginning, we see Silas actually flipped upside down. And I kind of feel like that has something to do with the title.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I was distracted by barking dogs. Something about Silas being upside down.
So the before the beginning credits, they did the cold intro, and they end it with Silas being flipped upside down. And so I kind of feel like that maybe had something to do with
really?
The sky is a graveyard.
Okay, I obviously need to watch it again, and I'm not going to because I don't remember Silas being flipped upside down. I am so sorry. There is someone outside the cabin, which is why the dogs are freaking out.
Hey! Do you want to do an edit?
Enough! Edit? What's edit? What is this edit thing of which you speak?
Oh, they're protecting you.
They're being obnoxious. All right.
Mine me for my own house alarm this morning that we set off.
How did you rate this episode?
So I think I rated it a little low for me.
I think I rated it higher than you think I'm going to, but go ahead.
I rated it a 3.4 moms because there were a lot of moms in this episode. Did you rate it higher?
I actually rated it higher, and I think I was being really generous, and I don't know why I was being so generous because I struggled so hard to find anything good in this too, although not as hard as I struggled with Fear. I think I just always tend to rate Walking Dead stuff higher than, yeah. I give it 3.75 inherited watches out of 5.
Oh.
So, our writer was a woman named Elizabeth Padden, and she has actually been an executive story editor on all 8 of the episodes we've gotten so far, but this is her only writer credit for World Beyond or in the Walking Dead universe. She has also written for a series called Altered Carbon, which I suspect you have watched.
I have, yes. It is a very good series on Netflix.
And then she wrote for a series called The Oath, which I looked it up and it didn't look like it went very far.
Yeah, I don't recognize it.
And then our director is a woman named Lauren Yaconelli, and she only has 3 director credits. This, Shameless, which is a series with William H. Macy, who I think is really funny, and Animal Kingdom, which also is not something that I was super familiar with.
Animal Kingdom. I feel like I should know. Oh, yeah. Okay. I think it's like a family of criminals.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. It just, yeah, the list is too long.
Well, so she doesn't have much in the way of director credits, but she had a ton of camera and production work.
Yeah, she does. Ray Donovan, True Blood.
And I'm
Lie to me.
thinking that I want to say that Shameless is a Showtime property.
I think so too.
So I think that's her connection.
Yeah. It's definitely on a pay channel of some sort.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, gosh, I just feel so uninspired, but that's taking us to our goods, bads, and uglies.
So I went first on Housewives last night.
Oh,
do you want to go
all
first?
Right. Sure, I'll go first. So my good is a small good, but I feel like I have to give them some credit. I feel like they really did a good job of aging Hal Compton up and down. He's the actor who played Silas.
Yeah.
I felt like the Silas that we got in the flashbacks was definitely a much younger, more innocent looking Silas. So they did a really good job.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was kind of shocking to see him that way.
Yeah. But that's my very small good.
I kind of almost wonder if they filmed that whole sequence like at the very, very beginning. And so, like, maybe he has aged, like, at least a few months in the rest of the series.
I don't know. I'm not sure how they did it. I'm not sure how they made him look so much younger, but...
Yeah, I did catch a little bit of, for some reason, Talking Dead recorded on my Sling. So,
I totally forgot there was going to be a Talking Dead episode to go with these.
Yeah, usually they're on AMC Plus, and so like I kind of boycott it because I'm just not paying for more stuff, even though I just signed up for Hulu.
I completely forgot.
But so he was on the World Beyond portion of the show, and he actually looked like the younger Silas. So I think it's like they age him up. You know, in the wilderness, he looks bigger. He looks, you know, more full faced. He looks, you know, a little older. But in real life, he looks like the younger Silas.
Interesting.
At least I think so.
Now I'm going to have to go back and watch that. I won't go back and watch either episode, but I will seek out Talking Dead and watch that because I haven't watched Talking Dead in a long time.
Well, Huck and Iris are the other two World Beyond people that are on it. I didn't watch it. I kind of skipped around in it.
I didn't watch it, but...
I forgot. I didn't even know that it was going to record. And so I just didn't have time tonight to watch it because I watched the other two shows. And so I kind of skipped around. And because apparently... Silas Hal Compton gives away something about the season finale that is super controversial because we're all like, no way.
Okay.
He says that Rick Grimes is going to be in the last episode.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen.
I was going to say, he didn't say that he was going to be in the episode. They were asked a question, 3 words to describe the mid-season finale, and one of his words was Rick. And of course Chris Hardwick is like, it could be any Rick, it doesn't have to be our Rick. And Hal was like, it rhymes with crimes,
you know. But here's the deal, so it could just be a reference to Rick. Yeah, because we keep getting these CRM bits and pieces. Yeah,
right. So I don't think Rick is going to be in the episode. I think that we're going to get something alluding to Rick's status. So.
Well, so what was your good?
My good was actually something you disliked. I really, really liked Elton this episode. I like how he advocated for Silas, and he wasn't just going to be like, well, you know, we found him and he had blood on him and he can't remember what happened. So obviously he did it. And of course, Iris is throwing out they were grifters. Like, somebody could have snuck in and done this because they had a beef against him, you know? And Alden went and like actually looked for clues. He didn't find any, but like he he is turning out to be a really good friend. And so I really liked him advocating for Silas this episode. I thought it was very sweet, and yeah.
He's
I would
like
want
12.
I know. Yes.
All right.
So what was your bad?
So my bad was that I didn't feel like their use of flashbacks or backstory was nearly as adept in this episode as it has been in other episodes of this series. And I don't know if it's just because I'm burned out. I don't know if it's because I would have rather had that kind of creeping mystery of who Silas was and what exactly he did. I almost feel like I would have been happier if they'd left it a little bit mysterious.
At least for longer.
Period.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it really moved the story along for me.
Yeah, I kind of felt like they weren't revealing anything that we didn't already know.
Well, and it was like, is Dad gonna... Yeah, Dad's a zombie. Okay.
Yeah. Which, I have some rotting potpourri about that, because I have issues with it.
Anyway, that was my bad. I felt like there had been other bits of backstory that had been really compelling. Like, I definitely liked Felix's backstory. I definitely liked Hope's backstory. The first bit of Silas's backstory was quite good.
I liked Huck's backstory.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said Hope. I meant to say Huck.
Okay.
It's a 4-letter word starting with H, and it's not hell, so... all right. So what was your bad?
So on the opposite end of fighting for Silas, I really was like, why is Hope so dead on that, Silas did this and he's a terrible person and we should leave him behind? And I mean, was it just her own guilty conscience? Because she was harsh. Like, I really did not enjoy her journey this episode. Yeah.
Well, and she did exactly what she did not need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I get why she did it, though. They executed that pretty well, in that, like, he was going to go out searching for his mom and sister, and it was going to be a completely futile journey. So, yeah, I get why she did it, but yeah, I did not like her this episode.
I did not like her.
Yeah.
We're both awful. I did not like her.
Well, I've liked her in previous episodes. I mean, the girl can make champagne, so she can't be all bad.
I still think that she, and other people have said this, I think she's a much better actress than the young lady who is playing Iris. She's much more interesting. She has more depth. She has more breadth.
Yeah, agreed.
And I'm tired of looking at the Triceratops whatever. I did find out this episode that it was in fact a Triceratops fragment. So
horn. Yeah.
All right.
So what was your ugly?
So
and I'm sure
ugly,
it was a bad ugly.
No, it was actually a good ugly, and it's props to you for figuring out the Huck as a spy thing, because I honestly didn't see it coming. I mean, until you said, I think Huck is a spy and this is why.
And I've been saying it for like 4 or 5 episodes.
I know. And I don't remember if it was you or Steve. And of course, Thomas O'Mara was like, it was me who said that. No, I think Steve said she was Kublek's daughter.
Yeah, so I do recall somebody said.
And then Thomas said that he was the one who said that Huck was a plant. And I was like, well, Marnell's been saying that too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, but anyway, props to you, because you figured that out, and that was a big twist. And it was a good twist. And
That
props
was
to
my
Steve
too.
for figuring out that she was Kubelik's daughter, although I'm very disappointed that Isabella's not Kubelik's daughter.
Yeah. And I don't think she's got 2 daughters.
No, I don't think so either.
But yeah, so that was my ugly too.
Okay.
I knew Huck was CRM. You know, like, I think I caught it like an episode or 2 before the whole, yeah, I'm just going to leave and scout ahead. And I'm like, no. I think I caught it before that episode. So I don't know what clued me in, but I was just like, she's totally a plant. And I think Hope is the one that is actually immune. Or they think she's immune.
And that's what Eric Kane was saying as well.
Yeah. She's the asset because that's who Huck has been spending the majority of her time with. So...
and this is taking us into writing potpourri, but I liked Felix's whole, well, you know, you can take him back. And she's like, no.
And then there was the whole Huck speech where she was telling Hope she has to serve the greater good, whether it's right or wrong.
Which I thought was a reference to Huck killing her unit, but now it's obviously a bigger thing.
Well, yeah, so that was what's her name's thing in the bottle episode of Fear the Walking Dead. You just said her name. Anyway, the whole
Isabel.
It's all for the greater good. Like I don't matter. One person doesn't matter. It's the future.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
yes.
That was a big, big theme.
Yes.
With the CRM people. So everything serves the greater good. So my beef with Silas's dad turning.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
So, you know, when we saw him not there, it was very obvious that, you know, we were going to find him as a walker somewhere, but he was just like 15 feet away down a kind of a straight hallway from the door. If he was a walker and he turned, he would have headed straight for Silas. He would have gone to the noise.
Okay, that's fair. He wouldn't have gone up the stairs.
Yeah, he would not have wandered upstairs. That was, unless there's another staircase in the house somewhere, it was right behind Silas. You know, like, he's at the door, and there's a hallway and a staircase, and, like, the walker just, like, breezed by him quietly and went upstairs and stood around. No. Nope, continuity error.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give my standard old lady, there was way too much of this episode that was too dark. There was definitely stuff that I was like, okay, it'd be nice to know what was going on, but okay.
Oh, dark like that. I was thinking dark emotionally.
I
was
don't
like,
know.
This is a super bummer episode.
No. You know, no. What I really wanted for it to be appropriately dark emotionally, they should have let that walker that came under the fence in the playground take Silas out. We needed to have our first major death of this series. That would have been so much better.
Huh.
Yeah. Oh.
I can't, I don't know who I would want to go. Probably Elton or Silas. Maybe Felix. Huck, of course, is important.
Right, and it can't be either of the girls.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
no, I was totally I was like, oh my god, they're going to kill Silas. Cool. There might be a redeeming... Nope, never mind.
See, and they had flashed on his boots earlier, and I still maintain that the boots are going to come into play somehow about, like, proving his innocence or something. And so I thought since he couldn't undo his hands that he was just going to kick the walker in the head until, it died. But no. Hope saved him, which was surprising.
Mm-hmm. No, they should have killed him. It would have been much better. Would have been much more impactful.
Oh, he would have died with that over his head, though. That would be awful. But it would probably be real life.
Speaking of that, do you really believe him that he killed Tony and Percy, or do you think he just confessed to it because he was like, well, you already think I'm a horrible person. I did it.
Yeah, so I think he confessed to it because they think in the scenes from before at the beginning of the episode that his voiceover was like I don't want people to like think that about me or something to that effect. And so here he is with these people that he has kind of made a group of friends, or even I go so far as to say a family. And all of a sudden they believe the worst about him, and he's back exactly where he was in the community. And so he was just going to be like, yeah, that's right. I killed him. And so when he wanders off to be alone, they're not going to follow him.
And how do you feel about Elton following him? You're a big Elton fan now, so...
Yes, like, Elton is a tried and true friend. Like, BFF for life. I think it's great that Elton's going after him. And we're separating our group. So, it makes it more interesting.
Oh.
So the whole abusive dad and the mother and everything, the neighbor knew that there was abuse going on in the home. And so, like, I feel like that should have gone in his favor. And I mean, Felix did say that his files did say that it was done in self-defense, but I just feel like he got punished even though, he was pretty much innocent. He basically just snapped after his dad tried to strangle him. He snapped after all of the abuse and everything. I'm really disappointed in his mother's reaction. But yeah, the neighbor knew. So I feel like maybe she should have testified that it was a severely abusive home.
Well, and I think that's probably what bought him a ticket to the community that Felix and Hope and all of our heroes were in. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that he would have gotten that fresh start if it had not been self-defense.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. But I still feel, just, it for some reason it bothers me that the neighbor knew. Not that, like, she knew and didn't do anything, just that, I don't know. So why couldn't they have tied Silas up in another part of the building? Why did they have to tie him outside all night?
My whole thing was they left him tied up like that all night and they didn't even let him go to the bathroom. And then I was like, oh no, he got himself untied. Never mind.
Yeah, they did not tie him very well. But yeah, I was just like they didn't even tie him. It was a kid's playground, and kind of in the distance there was a kind of a 2-story thing that probably had a ladder and a slide and everything, but it looked like a little gazebo. I'm like, they could have at least tied him up there so that, if there was a walker, it would have, had a hard time getting to him.
They should have let the walker get him.
I just feel like they were at a school. There were plenty of other places to tie him indoors. That was just rude to tie him outside like a dog.
Okay, could you explain to me why we're still dealing with cassette tapes this far into this universe? Because really, so let's say that, maybe it was, we're supposing that it's 2020, 2019, 2020, because they're 10 years into the zombie apocalypse, right?
Uh-huh.
And what, was he with the Omaha community for 6 months, a year?
Sure.
Why are we still dealing with cassette tapes?
Like, why not CDs or
right? I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Two reasons. We saw in earlier episodes that his grandparents they taped a bunch of conversations or like they talked to him.
You're not selling me. I mean, his dad's got this passion for heavy metal.
Yes.
And thinks that he needs to be where it sounds like he's at a real concert, and so he puts him in front of a boombox with cassette tapes.
Okay, that kid is going to go deaf, by the way. Like, he listens to his music way too loud.
I'm not buying the tech. And I'm not buying that the tech would live that long.
I'm not buying that batteries would last that long. I don't think they're manufacturing batteries in any of the communities. You've got rechargeable ones, but they're not that great. And 10 years into the apocalypse, like, I just don't think you're going to have that many AA batteries.
I just think the whole, like, I'm going to listen to my cassette tapes and I'm going to rewind it with my pencil. I mean,
he did leave it behind. This may be the end of Silas's Walkman.
Good God, I hope so.
That is all I had for World Beyond.
I have one more thing for World Beyond. So how on earth does Elton think this is a democracy?
Because there are no rules.
Sorry. Huck and Felix are making the rules.
Yeah, I mean, generally in any situation, the oldest member of the group is kind of seen as the leader or leaders. And yeah, but like, what are they gonna do if the kids don't follow the rules, right?
I guess.
How do you punish any of the 4 teenagers? Like, you can't ground them. You can't. I mean, like, you can't really take anything away from them, except maybe a Walkman, but that's done now. So yeah, like, I think Elton got to the point where he was like, what are they going to do? Take away my birthday?
I don't know. Let's move on to the dumpster fire that was Fear the Walking Dead. And it was a dumpster fire. I probably rated it way too high, too.
So damage from the inside.
All right. I gave it 3.19 horned god walkers out of 5.
I gave it a similar rating and rating type. I gave it a 3.4, 10-point walkers.
Did you name both, or did you rate both of them 3.4?
I did.
You did.
Yes, I didn't like them, but I did not dislike them.
I actually thought Fear was a bigger dumpster fire than World Beyond, which is saying a lot.
You know me and horror movies, though. We'll talk about it.
All right, so damage from the inside. Are they talking about Dakota? Are they talking about Strand? Are they talking about somebody else? Are they talking about all of the above?
I think they're talking about all of the above. And, Ed actually brought in the walkers that killed his wife and daughter.
Oh, very good point.
So the call is coming from inside the house.
Very good point.
Yeah. And now, of course, we have Strand doing some sort of damage from the inside, because I'm not convinced he's on Jenny's side, because Strand is always on Strand's side.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Strand.
Yeah.
All right, so our writer was a guy named Jacob Pinion. I hope I'm saying his name properly. This was his first proper episode in the Walking Dead universe, but it looks like he wrote all 6 of the episodes of the Althea tapes, which I actually really liked. I mean, we talked about those a few episodes ago, and I was disappointed that this dumpster fire was his.
And so was Smalls.
And so was Smalls. And then he wrote a couple of things that I didn't recognize at all. So...
yeah, I don't either.
And then our director is a woman named Tanya McKiernan. She has 51 director credits. She's actually been directing since the mid to late 90s. This is her first effort in the Walking Dead universe, but she has tons of stuff that I recognize. So several iterations of NCIS, Supergirl, we've talked about Queen of the South before, Riverdale.
The Magicians.
Yeah, the MacGyver reboot, we've talked about that as something related to the Walking Dead universe before. She directed a couple episodes of Burn Notice, which that always makes me think of Bruce Campbell, who is super funny. She did an episode or 2 of Monk, and she did some episodes of ER, which you mentioned that our featured cast, Ed, that actor was on ER.
Yep. He was in pretty much an episode of everything.
Starting back in 1969.
Yeah, so she did Warehouse 13. She did
Now,
Grimm.
is Warehouse 13 a related
Sci-fi.
to Okay, I was thinking it was related to Doctor Who, but it's not.
No.
Okay. And then the X was very into Grimm. I heard it was very good. It just never made the list for me.
Yeah, and it's funny because Grimm is, of course, based on Grimm's fairy tales.
Right.
And you know, I've owned that book since I was like 2. And it's like, it's the one with like the blood and gore and stuff. So that explains a lot about me. But so Grimm kind of came out at the same time as Once Upon a Time. They both kind of started around the same era. And so you had like, you know, the dark, gritty fairy tales of Grimm.
I was going to say, but Grimm was more grim. Wah,
yep.
wah.
And then Once Upon a Time, you know, was all, you know, light and Disney. So, of course, I naturally gravitated towards Grimm.
I watched a few episodes of Once Upon a Time, and I enjoyed it, and then I fell off. So I do that a lot. There is not much that has kept my attention to the end. And now Walking Dead will, because, you know, we're podcasting it and we're beating someone's poor eardrums in right now. All right. So what was your good?
So my good was the horror theme. They didn't quite do as good a job as Walking Dead proper Prime, but there were some good shout outs in this episode. So one of the songs you hear playing on his record player, which like is always super creepy, you know, is Jeepers Creepers, which is a horror movie. There's like 3 or 4 of them. So you kind of had a callback to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, kind of Bates Motel, Ed Gein type stuff, because, you know, he was like taxidermying and taxidermying humans, and yeah. So there was those, and so his name was Ed, and they did confirm that he was named after Ed Kemper. His wife was
he was named after Ed Kemper, not after Ed Gein?
Yes, Ed Kemper. Sorry. Ed Kemper was the one
right. Ed Kemper was the one that they featured pretty heavily in the first season of Mindhunters.
Yeah, that was Kemper. That was Geen.
No.
I'm sorry, that was Kemper.
Yes. All right, so for the serial killer expert, you are getting it totally jacked up.
The point is, don't...
Ed Gein is Buffalo Bill. Ed Gein is the creepy dude who was making women's suits.
Yes.
Ed Kemper is the dude who was featured in Mindhunter.
Yes, he's like 7'4" or something.
Oh, my goodness.
Sorry. So his wife's name was Nancy, which always makes me think of Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Sure.
And his daughter was Emily, and that makes me think of The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Oh my goodness. So, are you reaching just a little bit, maybe? Maybe.
You know, I feel like out of all of the names they pulled, those were the names. So I loved the overall horror theme of this, and I love that Alicia was like super smart in getting out of her restraints. Like, she didn't just flail there or like cry or anything. She was like, okay, she looked over and was like, how do I get out of this? And started, going at her bindings. So, and like, he was so terrible at this. You can tell he only deals with walkers, because if the antlers hadn't been there, she could have just chewed through the duct tape. Like, do a better job next time, serial killer.
I did have to say that the kind of overlooking the table, I was like, oh, that's a Dexter moment.
I didn't even think of Dexter, but it is very similar to some shots from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whichever version you watch, the old one, the newer one, or the newest one.
Well, and so the other thing, kind of in keeping with what you're talking about, is that at first I was like, all right, it's not completely unheard of that a serial killer would still be plying his trade in the zombie apocalypse. It's not completely unheard of that they would stumble across a serial killer. But, gah.
I think a sociopath would be a really good survivalist, because they would feel no remorse about stealing or killing or anything like that. So, totally plausible. Even though it turned out he wasn't, like, he kind of had a weird purpose for what he was doing, and yeah.
I'm not entirely convinced he wasn't a complete creeper.
I maintain that he's a creeper, but I don't think he was a serial killer. The two are not mutually exclusive. So what was your good?
All right. I have said repeatedly in this episode that I struggled finding a good, and I really did struggle finding a good. I was looking through all of my notes going, what am I going to write? Because, like, a page into my notes, I wrote, yep, won't be watching this one again. Ultimately, I decided that my good was the walkers. Some of the walkers were super creepy. At first, I was like, oh, really? But then I enjoyed the walkers more as it went along. So that's all I can say.
Some of them were definitely better than others. And that first one, I had a hard time understanding, like, the one that they encountered outside his house.
Like, had the heart sticking out, or...
Yeah. Like, he had different weird patches.
Yeah. No, I was like... the walkers with the horns, those were definitely... with the antlers. Those were definitely the ones who did it for me.
My rating is 10-point walkers, as like 10-point buck,
right?
Right. Hunting reference. Yeah, I liked the walkers. Always keeping it fresh. Interesting ways of showing walkers. My bad is Ed's death.
Because it was completely lame?
Yes. no one would choose to be eaten to death that way. Like,
oh no, I was thinking of the whole like antler sticking out of his gut thing, and Alicia going, "You'll be fine."
I really that didn't even faze me.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
Him just like opening up his arms and the walkers like coming and just like chowing down. I was like, nobody would do that. Like,
I actually think we've seen something like that before.
I just think your survival instinct would kick in. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think that's legit. I think you're right. Most people are driven to survive.
Yeah, I mean, even people, as horrible as it sounds, even people who hang themselves, if they don't restrain their hands, they will claw at the rope. It's just your instinct. It's just your body reacting.
Unless you hang yourself from a high enough height and you break your neck.
Yes. Yes.
That's your chipper thought for the night.
Better than being eaten to death, though. I can't imagine anybody going, yes, come eat me to death. I could see him, like, shooting himself in the head or something and, like, then letting the walkers eat him. But, like, what a horrendous way to go. Like, I can't really think of a more painful way to go.
He was already dead, and he was already high on adrenaline and endorphins because you don't really get up and shake it off when you have an antler sticking out of your gut. He was already dead.
Just scratch. All right, so what was your bad?
All right, so I have to preface my bad with a little bit of a caveat, which is, to be fair, this was not supposed to be our mid-season finale.
Yeah.
But
I have real problems with this being our mid-season finale, but COVID, what are you going to do?
Right. But there was so much in this episode where we did not get any payoff. Koba is disgusted too. So Ginny killed their parents, or she killed Dakota's parents. Are they even sisters? I mean, yes, they look like crazy alike, but are they really? And why did she kill their parents?
So in a EW article.
Okay, no. That doesn't count because we didn't get any payoff in the episode.
No. But they say that that we will learn more about her all of the terrible things that she's done, including killing her parents.
Yeah, it doesn't count because we didn't get the payoff. Sorry.
No.
Why is Dakota so determined to undermine Ginny? Is it just that, or is there more?
Okay, so this is actually in my ugly.
Wait, I'm not done.
You have a lot of bads.
I do, but it's all like no payoff bads. Like, we get this big intro of Grace, who we haven't seen all season long, and then that's it. But of course, that was the one where I was like, all right, this was supposed to be 7 of 8, and we're not going to get 8 for a while, so okay, I can live with that. But yeah, I just felt like there was an awful lot with no payoff. Okay, you're bad.
Yeah, I think they could have I already did my bad.
You're ugly. Sorry.
I think they could have this isn't my ugly, but I think they could have re-edited episode 7 and like, I don't know, just made it
a little bit more mid-season finale-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my ugly is actually Dakota's kind of selfish. Like, I get it, she's a teenager, but
she's like a preteen. She's hardly a teenager.
She has no problem with people risking their lives to, help her escape Ginny. And I'm like, okay, I get that Ginny is like a terrible person, but like, you kind of benefit from that. You kind of live a pretty good life being her sister. Why are you trying to escape? It's not like she's like arranging a marriage for you or, like putting you in the town brothel or something. Like, why is she trying to escape Ginny so hard? And she's so willing to put other people in danger to have them help her.
I think definitely it's a maturity thing. I think her Whoa, that was a Freudian slip. Her prefrontal cortex is not formed.
Yeah.
I mean, she just doesn't have any conscience, and I think that you're right. She's really selfish, which is pretty normal developmentally for a kid that age. And I do think that she's actively undermining Ginny because she thinks Ginny's a terrible person, and everybody else be damned.
I think I would actively undermine her from inside, damage from the inside. I could, dismantle her dictatorship,
Well, and I mean, that is what she's trying to do. I mean, she's continuously egging at Strand at the very beginning, come on, we can totally take her down from the inside, But
now, she's just trying to run away now. Yeah, I don't know. She's kind of, I guess, because teenager, she's getting on my nerves.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know. They did a really good job casting the actress. She definitely looks like Ginny's little sister. She's a pretty good little actress, but the character herself, it goes back to when we very first met her. All of a sudden she's totally okay, and we're like, oh yeah, you're that kid who looks just like Ginny. We're going to totally make you ours. You're totally our people.
Yeah.
Well, my ugly is actually a bad ugly, and it's your good. So I actually felt like the whole detour into Buck's Lodge was unnecessary. I feel like they did a terrible job incorporating standard horror tropes, whereas Walking Dead did a great job this season integrating storylines that we've seen over and over again in horror films. I mean, there were so many things, like the creaky sign and the tinny music, Tonight You Belong to Me, and the creepy solo guy. Is he a serial killer or is he not? And then seriously, I mean, it really capped it for me when Alicia was like, you're going to be fine. And I was like, really? And then I thought to myself, Texas, he probably will be fine. So I felt like it was an unnecessary detour. I didn't like it. I don't feel like it moved the story forward. It was not interesting to me. I didn't feel like they did it well.
Yes, I actually agree with it was unnecessary.
And frankly, as much as I've loved Morgan and his reinvention this season, having Morgan show up in the nick of time again. Ugh.
Yeah, I was
That's getting really
bit
old.
That way.
That's getting really old.
I was like, okay, like we said like at the beginning that the common thread for this season was going to be Morgan, a little bit of Morgan in every episode. And yeah,
they could mix it up a little.
Yeah, he does seem to show up right in the nick of time.
Yeah, they could mix it up a little. It'd be fine.
Yeah.
All right, that pretty much takes us into Rotting Potpourri. And the very first thing that I wrote down was, it's not good to be a deer in The Walking Dead either. Not good to be a kid, not good to be a deer, not good to be a horse.
Yeah. So far, it's okay for dogs.
Hey, maybe, well, except the dogs that got eaten in season 3.
Right.
Maybe this deer, the dead deer at the very beginning, was a shout out to the deer that introduced us to Daryl in season 1.
Oh, yeah. He was ticked off because the walker got to it, and he's like, maybe we can just cut that part out.
Yes.
Yeah. Huh. I didn't even think of that.
I didn't think of that until just now. That was one more redeeming feature in this episode.
So something that like super duper stuck out like a sore thumb, annoying, like unnecessary. Ginny's fancy schmancy leather sling for her stump.
Oh, how funny. So
like,
there were so many things that annoyed me that didn't even make the list.
Like, It was beautiful. I actually have a laptop bag that's leather with buckles, and
Oh
it's
my
got
God,
my
that's
name on it. Like,
hilarious.
and I'm just like, okay, her sling is actually nicer than my like $300 leather messenger bag,
Well, she
computer.
is the big bad and the ruler of the pioneers. So,
But they just whipped that up for her real quick. Like, man, whoever does the leather work there is super fast and
yeah.
super handy. Like,
Well,
because that was perfectly fit for her stump.
and it's been what, maybe 4 days?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, did you see her stump when he was
No,
bandaging it?
no, I really did not. I really, once again, was like, all right, not going to watch this one again.
Okay, so when her hand was cut off, the wound was cauterized with hot metal.
I remember Jenna Elfman's character, June, saying that.
So when we see the stump, when they're changing the bandages now, it's like, a stump, but it's got like stitches all around it. There's a flap of skin that was like folded over, and the only
Maybe
thing I can
June
think of,
cleaned it up after she did
that's
the initial cautery.
okay. That was my excuse too. I was super annoyed that because I was like, well, I mean, she didn't really take her time to, maybe do a clean cut. There could have been bone shards, maybe June did some surgery and they had enough flesh after cleaning up, the severed bone.
Well, kind of what they'll do
to...
is they'll actually cut the bone off a little further so they can make a flap of skin.
Yeah. And that's what I kind of assumed happened. Yeah. Okay.
So speaking of medical stuff, I actually wrote down that Fear and World Beyond, this whole first half of their seasons, made me think of a cardiac rhythm called Torsades de Pointe. And I mean, this is totally out there. But so Torsades, it's a fatal cardiac rhythm unless you treat the person. But the thing is that it is basically this rhythm that twists along with a middle thread throughout, and you're kind of looking at that middle thread as the baseline. And it just, to me, both of these shows have been so uneven this season that it's Torsades just tortuously twisting along that middle point but never quite staying there. I know, I'm being ridiculous. But
I feel like there was another, I don't know if it was Walking Dead Prime or what, where it was like every other episode was either awful or good. And it was like, are the writers not, are there two sets of writers? Oh no, it was one episode where
oh, you said it felt like they just took the script and cut it up and then threw it into the middle of the room and
two different sets of writing teams, and they just mishmashed it all together.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, in fairness, and I did say this to Tom O'Mara because we were chatting back and forth, and he was pretty disgusted with me that I was pretty disgusted with this episode. It still is not as bad as the entirety of last season.
No, I agree.
I mean, there were actually a couple of really good episodes in the first half of the season. I'm bummed that we didn't get a true mid-season finale and that we ended on a not so great episode.
Yeah, and again, I can't really blame them because
right.
COVID,
I mean, it is COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID has ruined everything.
Yeah,
literally everything.
So I guess they were a couple of days into shooting episode 8 when they got shut down.
When the whole shutdown happened. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you? So the whole chess thing. There was a shout out to the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah. I have not watched that.
I have not either, but I thought it was kind of a cool shout out, and I'm sure that it was somewhat intentional because that's been hot for a couple of seasons now. And
has it?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it has more than one season. Maybe not. I'm not up on my Netflix, so maybe I'm completely speaking out of turn. But the other thing is that Tom O'Mara did say to me, it's the whole everybody's a pawn, Dakota's a pawn on this chessboard.
Huh.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting.
And Ginny's the queen.
Right.
Pretty good.
I am wrong. So the Queen's Gambit was 2020.
Okay. I think it was like teased for a while. The star that was cast in it like was in something, and people were very excited for it to come out.
I think I'm probably also like mixing it up in my brain with The Crown, which is ridiculous because they're not even remotely related aside from the fact that they're both on Netflix.
And, Queen, Crown,
right.
Whatever.
I do want to point out about Ed and his whole, like, shooting Alicia up with a tranquilizer. I don't know any hunters who tranquilize their prey.
Yeah, me either. I mean,
I was
even
like, okay, that's
taxidermy.
Like, dumb.
Like, you have to kill them for taxidermy.
Right. Yeah, no, the whole, like, I just happen to have this tranquilizer and know how to administer it in a capacity that it's not going to kill you, but it's going to incapacitate you for a while.
Right? And it's still good after all of this time.
Right.
So when he does that, she turns around and, like, there's a couple of seconds where she's staring at him and she's got her whatever her tailpipe weapon is.
Oh, right. The flash suppressor.
Yes, that. She's got it, like, right up to him, and he has time to say, don't worry, it won't hurt as bad as you think or whatever. And I'm like, okay, somebody stabs me in the neck. I'm not hesitating to turn around and shove that weapon through his face.
Which that also, by the way, is a total shout out to Dexter, because that's how Dexter incapacitated all of his victims.
You're right. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's funny. See, another one. Yeah, so I was just like, why did she hesitate? Somebody is stabbing you in the neck.
Right.
Like, there's no good reason to do that. So automatically I'm going to turn around and, like, stab you.
I mean, that would be a normal reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have to tell you, I wrote down, yep, Ed is nuts when he did the whole, I'm bringing them back, all of my creations.
Oh, yeah. And when Alicia looks over and sees him with the walker on the table and, all of his taxidermy stuff and everything, right. I'm like, well, everyone's got to have a hobby.
Augmenting the dead.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but, he wasn't actually hurting anybody.
Right.
And he was doing it for the purpose to scare people away from him. So I got to give him a pass on that one, but he was still creepy.
I did write in the notes shortly after that, it's the Buffalo Bill episode. You'd think I'd like it better. Okay. I'm going to skip ahead, but I'm going to let you go first because it sounds like I'm about to overtalk you.
I was going to say, so Grace. Is that where you were skipping ahead to?
No, I'm not. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, but not quite to Grace. Okay. So, Strand. Again, I wrote down, will they actually redeem this episode by killing... Nope. I really wanted them to kill Strand.
I maintain John or June is going to die. I don't know if it's gonna be Strand.
I believe that Tom was saying to me that he agreed that they're pretty much telegraphing that we're going to lose John.
Okay.
But here we go again. No death. No death.
Nope.
And they had every reason in the world to gun Strand down right there.
Yeah, like he lost Ginny and then he lost Dakota and lied to Ginny about it. And didn't get her back, and
our guys had every reason to gun him down.
Oh, yeah.
When he was, like, face-to-face with Morgan and Alicia, I was like, pull the trigger. Do it. It would be devastating. It would be fantastic. I would love it. It would redeem the series a little bit for me if we had some blood.
Yeah.
I'm sounding terrible. I wanted 2 main characters to die, 1 in each series.
But we are coming off of Walking Dead Prime, where no major characters died.
Dude, this is the ZA. Remember early on when you never knew if someone was going to survive or not? And now it just feels like everybody is protected.
Yep.
Except Dory. I mean, really, it just feels like, come on, you guys. Let's juice this up a little bit. Let's make it unpredictable. Let's make it scary. Let's make it anguishing.
Yeah.
I remember sobbing my brains out in the early seasons of the main series. And really? No?
Yeah, it was like, I feel like every like 3rd or 4th episode, a major character died. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, that was my skip ahead. Are they gonna? Nope, they're not gonna kill him.
Well, and, like Wes, like that was a major wound. He should not survive that in the ZA. Like
he essentially had the same wound that Ed had this episode.
Yep.
You're gonna be fine. Yep. Really?
Without Jenny twisting it around his gut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So Grace, that I didn't immediately. I was immediately like, oh, I hate that, you know, Jenny's been holding Grace all along, but
explain to me why she's got her caged up in a hovel.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is she doing that to somehow get back at Morgan, who she now knows is alive, or?
I mean, I guess, like, yeah, I mean, there are nicer places to hold her rather than, a 1-room shack.
Well, and she's got everyone else doing something. She's got everyone else who's got a purpose in her communities, except Grace.
Yeah, and you'd think that, like, a heavily pregnant woman is probably not going to be on the run, you know?
Yeah, it just makes... I don't know. It was weird. It was also, and again, this was the one that I really could write off to, okay, this was not meant to be the mid-season finale. But it really was one of those where I was like, zero payoff.
Yeah. I do like that Jenny has, like, this super weapon against Morgan now, though. Like, when I can't remember what I read, if it was Uprocks or... but somebody was like, this is what they're using against Morgan. This is her weapon against Morgan. I was like, oh, okay. I get it. Because otherwise she had nothing.
But he's going to have to know that she's got Grace in the situation she's got her in for it to be a weapon.
They have radios.
That they, as Eric Kane said, rely far too heavily on.
Yep. That never run out of batteries, and you can always get someone on the other, on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that she'll just put Grace on the radio and talk to Morgan, or Strand will say something to Morgan. Yeah. Well, we will only have to podcast one show next week.
And then what are we going to do? Are we going to do our book review?
There is a zombie movie on Netflix that I would kind of like to watch because it kind of looks like a kind of a Train to Busan type.
Oh, so it's not Kingdom, is it?
No, I think it's called Alive.
Because,
Alive.
Steve and Diana were encouraging us to watch Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think they're going to be talking about in their off-season.
Okay. Well, I mean, if they're going to talk about it, I will definitely watch it so that I can listen to them talk about it. But yeah, I think it's called #Alive. A guy is in South Korea he's like trapped in his apartment when the zombie apocalypse breaks out, and they're fast zombies like in Train to Busan.
I find it interesting that South Korea has this really active zombie culture, because apparently Kingdom is set in South Korea as well. But I don't know that it was South Korea at that point. It was just feudal Korea. I'm assuming that it was like all one Korea. But
oh, it does look super interesting. I'll have to check it out.
And I think it's relatively short.
I feel like, oh, it's 12 episodes. So 45 minutes an episode. That's a weekend. You got some time off on your hands.
Yeah, I've got some stuff I have to do with my time off, which is more than laying in bed and reading World War II novels.
My time off at work just got pretty much canceled.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah. I mean, I can't be mad. My coworker needs open heart surgery, so, like, fortunately, I don't need the open heart surgery, but I was really hoping for the 4 days off between Christmas and New Year's, because there's 3-day weekends on either side of those 4 days.
So nice.
And so you get 10 days off if you just take 4 days of leave.
I have to say, by the way, I am COVID negative.
Yay!
Yeah. Which I have mixed feelings about, since I just missed a week of work because I was sick. But,
and you're still susceptible to COVID.
And that's exactly it. I'm still susceptible to COVID. Yeah.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Life. Results may vary. All right. So, like I said, only one more show to podcast about next week, and it's a 2-parter, so yeah. And then we'll do other stuff and then be back with Walking Dead stuff in February.
So it'll be episodes 9 and 10 of The World Beyond.
Yep. So you'll probably have the Housewives episode out, and then this episode comes out.
Yeah, I'm going to put them both out tomorrow.
And then Happy Thanksgiving!
And please don't travel.
Don't.
God.
Yeah. We gotta pull ourselves out of this.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna happen if half of us don't cooperate. That's just not gonna work. Ugh. But, alright. Are you ready to wrap it up?
I think so. I'm sorry, I've been singularly unexpired. Unexpired. That too, I've been unexpired. I've been uninspired.
Well, the podcast just expired, so until next week, just remember, take it one dead day at a time. Have a good week, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Bye.